Thank you guys. It's time for my final thought. Due to the rising number of coronavirus cases, hospitals, following recommendations by the American College of Surgeons and the U.S. Surgeon General, have started postponing or canceling non-emergency procedures and elective surgeries. This means that some area patients have seen their long-planned procedures or rehabilitation and physical therapy programs delayed. I can only imagine how frustrating this is, or in the case of dealing with long-term chronic issues, painfully disheartening. But we must believe that there will be an end to our present circumstance and relief will come at some point. But these postponements decrease the number of people in hospitals, which allows an all-hands-on-deck battle against the virus. However, there's another number that's also dropping: emergency room visits. Emergency room visits are down nationwide, sometimes as much as 50%, and this is concerning. Do we believe people will stop having heart attacks, household accidents, kids have stopped falling out of trees? Of course not. What is happening, though, is people are afraid they'll catch the virus in the emergency room, so they're putting off seeking medical attention, which means they may be placing themselves in future jeopardy. It's not just emergency room visits either. There are also patients who are themselves putting off needed mammograms and colonoscopies, as well as diabetes testing due to these same fears. These procedures can and do save lives. Even in this moment, they still need to be done. If your doctor wants you to have it, then it's needed. Please go. If you need to visit the emergency room, take the necessary precautions and please go. Don't delay hoping the situation will heal itself. You may end up allowing what could be a minor problem grow into a major problem. Now, I understand why people have been staying away, but life is still happening all around us. This virus has already claimed more than 50,000 American lives. Let's not let fear add to this number. We're going to continue this conversation online. You guys have a beautiful Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay home, stay safe, and get up, DC.